What is up, cinephiles? Welcome back to Screen Kings. For today's video, we'll be talking about the prequel to Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead. It's Army of Thieves, directed and starred by Matthias Schweighöfer. Now, this one is set 6 years prior to the events of Army of the Dead, and it focuses on a German safecracker named Ludwig Dieter as he joins a group of thieves on this top secret heist. Now, this movie already got into commission prior to the release of Army of the Dead. I would like to think of that because it's just announced days after the release of Army of the Dead. So it's almost as if that they know that this character is going to be a fan favorite, and sure enough, he became one. And considering the fate of this character, for those who have seen Army of the Dead, I'm not gonna say any spoilers. It's kind of questionable what the purpose of this movie is, unless you're a fan who would like to spend 2 more hours with him. That's the only reason that I'm seeing going into this movie. Also, since this movie is set years before the zombie apocalypse, the outbreak just ignited in the States, and the setting of this movie is mostly on Germany, then in other parts of Europe, so there's no zombie threat in here. It was completely taken out of the equation, though we can see some zombies here in some sequences, which are mostly amusing yet somehow contrived, just to act as a premonition or a foreshadowing of the bigger heist that he's going to do in the future involving zombies. So this movie has lesser stakes. He will definitely make it out alive and probably unscathed because he's in the movie Army of the Dead, right? Now, as for the heist aspect, it's better than Army of the Dead, but it's not the most original. It definitely does not reinvent the genre. I mean, the common plot elements are in here, you know, the planning stage, the recruitment stage, the execution, characters having some conflicts along the way, and of course there's always this police detective who seems to be one step behind of all of this. You can't really compare it to Ocean's films when it comes to complexity and intricate setup, but the execution here, technically it's well made, just as expected for formula films with a budget. I think Schweighöfer here has stylish direction and editing. The tone is definitely much lighter, more of an action comedy thriller, and it embraces the ridiculousness of the character Dieter, who we get to know early on that his real name is actually Sebastian. In Army of the Dead, if you like this character, you're going to like him even more, but if you're annoyed by this character, you probably should not watch this movie because it's focused on him. Matthias here continues with his somewhat over-the-top character, somewhat of a neurotic and a coward character, but he has a kind heart and he's rootable and likable. So this character is endearing. I think the character's personality and Matthias' performance is enough to make this low-stakes heist, even though its formula, still watchable. In most cases, action thrillers here, the center of narrative here is mostly the alpha male, so it's always welcome to see a beta type personality taking forward and being the center of the narrative. Juxtapose that to an alpha male character here played by Stuart Martin as Brad Cage, who got a funny backstory as to his name origin, and also who just looks like Hugh Jackman. It's nice to see the different spectrum of masculinity. Also, you can tell that Matthias here is doing an incredible job behind and in front of the camera. He makes this safe cracking, a somewhat mundane and boring activity, to be more cinematic, more compelling. So we get some close-up shots of the vault here, some application of CGIs. You see these gears and these mechanisms moving and locking into place. You don't really understand what's happening, but just for the sake of adding tension. Personally, I can't resonate to his obsession and love for the safes, but he has a neat backstory here to explain why he has grown such. That he does not really perceive this safe as somewhat of an obstacle to perform the heist and get the money. He's never really in it for the money, but he's in the glory of solving this safe. Cracking the safes is somewhat like climbing the Mount Everest for him. That's why he's super excited when he first found out on Army of the Dead that they're going to crack that prestigious safe called Gotthard Zamarong, whatever it's called, the safe that's located in Vegas. Also, there's a romance angle here between Dieter and Nathalie, Emmanuel's character named Gwen, as a skilled pickpocket and the mastermind behind the operation. Now, I've seen Nathalie Emmanuel before in action films, Fast and Furious, but I think this is her most actiony role to date. She has some stunts here and some badass moments. You know, these characters are both compelling to watch, but together, I don't think their chemistry is strong enough. It never went past beyond infatuation stage for me. So the romance angle is not really of a good anchor in this movie. I actually think that Dieter's chemistry with Vanderholm in Army of the Dead is much better and much entertaining. As for the rest of the supporting cast, you know how it goes. Each character here has their own skill set. We have here a getaway driver named Rolf, played by Gus Kahn, and a brilliant hacker named Corina, played by Ruby O'Fee. So there's a usual banter and bickering among the group here. They have their moments, but these two characters in particular, I don't think that they really get to expound them more than beyond their initial intros, because for the most part, Matthias' character here is taking the center stage and they tend to be ignored. I don't think the film really utilized each of their skill set, and I don't think that they have the most distinguishable motivations here, so they don't end up really memorable. The whole chemistry also in the gang, I'm not really vibing it as strong enough compared to Army of the Dead. As for the pacing for a 2-hour film, I think this movie went a bit too long. There's somewhat an initial, a bit slow setup in the beginning, and it only picks up once we get to the actual execution. And I felt like the movie could have used more internal tension here, because the execution of the heist, it's not really focused on the intricate logistics of going in and out of the bank. They make it look like easy. And also the sub-conflicts here, like the police going after their heels, or the ego of Brad clashing with other of the members of the gang. I don't think that there's a sense of urgency on the conflict here, so I wasn't really on my toes watching this. And that is not a goal when it comes to having a thriller film, right? Now, Army of the Dead, I think it's quite the reverse. They had a strong setup here, and then somewhat in the middle, it lagged and it get too emotional, and then it tries to make up for a bombastic third act. In Army of Thieves, there's fun to be had in the action sequences, but it quite takes a while for them to get going. So as a whole, as a contribution to the actual franchise, I'm not sure if there's anything. It's not really much of an expansion, but rather a footnote to the character of Dieter. And considering that Netflix here has huge confidence on the project, there is going to be a sequel to Army of the Dead, which is Planet of the Dead, which I can imagine that Zack Snyder is going to direct as well. And there's also this animated series called Lost Vegas or something that's also going to come out next year. So my hope is that these next projects will actually have more contribution to the lore and, you know, to the world building that they have created in Army of the Dead, because this one, it kind of pales and it just feels a bit generic, a bit of a paint by the numbers approach. It has its heart, and it's nice to know the driving motivations and the insights of Dieter here. But again, I don't think that this has an actual contribution. If you've already seen Army of the Dead, so you will definitely get me. So I'm gonna give this one a 2.5 out of 5 stars. It's just that while watching this movie, I don't feel any driving force into it. So unless some of these characters will reprise in future installments, I'm not seeing a purpose into this. I don't think this one ultimately justified its existence. So that's it for my review of Army of Thieves. How about you guys? Do you agree or disagree with me? That's okay. Let me know what you think in the comment sections down below. Also, if you enjoyed watching this video, hit that like and subscribe to me for weekly reviews of movies and TV shows. Thank you so much guys for watching. Until then, I'll see you all on the next one.